What fate a slugcat? Prey and predator. As the old world died, a new ecosystem evolved. In a land where even rain can kill. Each creature struggles for its own survival. Each beast has a place on the food chain, which it seeks to deny. And through this ruined landscape, strange monstrosities and ancient mysteries, slugcat journeys alone. It is a search for shelter, a search for answers, a search for hope. What fate a slugcat?
Welcome to Rain World. We are Hunter, strong and quick, with a fierce metabolism requiring a steady diet of meat. But the stomach won't be our only concern, as the path of the hunter is one of extreme peril. We are on a mission, a quest to carry this glowing green nuclear fly as far as possible. And at first that's all we really know about Hunter, but not all that we should know about Rain World, although I'll get into all that in a bit. Hunter, just like you and I, has needs. He needs to eat, and he needs to sleep. Now, Hunter can eat pretty much anything, but he loves meat. My dude is a menace when it comes to feasting on dead carcasses. Perhaps unlike you and I. Perhaps. But as Hunter demonstrates, he was perfectly happy to feast on some very lively, squirming centipedes. You need 6 food to sleep, but Hunter's hungry ass can hold up to 9 total food to use some for the next day. How much food each creature is worth generally depends on their size, although there are some exceptions. You can pick up a spear and any objects you might find in your left and right hands, and throw whatever is in your left hand to interact with things. Hunter, bless his heart, is able to hold an extra spear on his back. What is he sticking that thing to? Well, when you find out, you'll wish you didn't ask. Now, let's get down to business. Hunter is universally considered the hard mode of Rain World. To even unlock this character, you have to complete the main campaign as either Survivor or Monk. Now if you go way back with this series, you know that I already did that on my live stream, and you can find those VODs sprinkled with some extra editing magic on my channel. Despite these things, I am going to structure this series in a way that first-time viewers should be able to digest a little more easily. That being said, I am going to assume you either have watched one of my past series on this game or do not care about spoilers or playing the game yourself. If you haven't played the game yet and you like what you see, pick it up for yourself before you watch any further. This game is sort of more of an experience/art piece that you can only be fully immersed in on your first ever playthrough. That initial magic of exploration can only happen the first time you play the game, and if you get spoiled, I do feel like you lose out on an impactful chunk of the game as an experience. Now, that doesn't mean that the fun is only relegated to your first playthrough. After your first experience comes discussion of Rain World as an artistic piece, and the little details that make this game so iconic among those who love it. And that will serve as the purpose for this playthrough. To those who have watched my first 2 Rain World playthroughs, or are primarily viewers of my stream, you'll find that this series is very different from what my usual content entails. This is a YouTube exclusive series, so I am going to be doing this run post-commentary and with what I can only describe as extremely heavy, high-caliber, Hollywood-level editing to make sure that the game's defining moments in both atmosphere and story stand above my tangential ramblings. You can essentially think of this series as exemplifying Hunter's story, and I'll get into why I've decided to structure it this way in the next episode. But with all of that exposition out of the way, let's discuss what we're seeing on the screen. That right there is a blue lizard. He is now transformed into a dead lizard. While there are dozens of unique creatures that inhabit this world, Hunter will come to find that lizards are among the most abundant predators in Rain World. The heavy armor on their heads blocks spears, but lizards come packed with plenty of weaknesses you can exploit, if you're crafty enough. The first region Hunter finds himself in is called the Farmerays. It's a very lush landscape, filled with variations of these red plants and what seems to be some sort of ancient architecture in the background. As you can expect from the first region, there isn't anything here that's going to give Hunter too much hell. But that's not to say it's the sunshine and rainbows that a character like Survivor would have most likely experienced here. This region is known for its abundance of overgrown centipedes and the extremely dangerous presence of worm grass. However, on this particular playthrough of the farm arrays, we aren't going to be coming into contact with everything that there is to see here. Rainworld is a game with linear objectives, but a non-linear path of progression to reach those objectives. While my playthrough may take me on one path, your playthrough of the game can vary wildly to the point where you may not even encounter many of the same regions as Hunter will on this playthrough. And that's where a huge chunk of this game's replay value stems from, but there's still much more to it that we'll come across as we continue the adventure. Take a screenshot here, folks, because the text at the bottom of the screen is just about the only tutorial you're going to be receiving for the entire campaign. I am not kidding. Rainworld is a notoriously cryptic game with very little in the way of hand-holding, even when playing as the easier characters. While I may have plenty of experience with the mechanics, the average first-time player is going to have to do plenty of experimenting in order to find out what works and what doesn't. It pleases me to say that even after 300 plus hours of gameplay, I've barely scratched the surface when it comes to exploring the mechanical depth that this game offers. On top of the vast amount of creatures, all of which interact with each other in different ways, there's practically an entire Bible worth of movement tech to master, information about the lore to discover, and extra challenges to work toward. But we'll cross those bridges eventually. This handsome young fellow digging through the pipes is a green lizard. For 95% of players, this is most likely going to be the first type of lizard you encounter. Green lizards are insanely bulky, usually requiring at least 4 or 5 hits with a spear to fully kill. They also come armed with a swift charge attack that pretty much ensures Hunter becomes a juicy red fillet. That being said, what if I told you that these are some of the least threatening enemies we'll come across? Green lizards, for what they bring in strength, have no ability to jump or climb on walls or poles. Yes, this means that employing the almighty power of the high ground is enough to completely neuter a green lizard's ability to attack us. But Hunter isn't one to run away from a challenge. There will be times when you have no choice but to fight lizards in close quarters, and this is pretty much the game plan for such a situation. All it takes is a rock to the face to flip most lizards on their back, opening their weak body for a follow-up spear attack. But be cautious. Hunter may have one hell of an arm, but a rock or even a spear isn't going to stun a lizard forever. Especially in the case of a green lizard, you're really just going to piss them off with the first spear. After weakening them for a bit, I'd usually advise using the terrain to your advantage to recover your resources and go in for the kill. You'll see in no time why the ability to carry 2 spears at once is an absolute godsend in this game. Each lizard comes with its own set of strengths and weaknesses. Our good buddy the blue lizard, for example, is far smaller than their green cousins. Due to their puny size, it only takes 1 spear throw to take them down. To make up for this, they have the ability to climb on any surface. And if you can believe it, they even have a short-range tongue that they can use to disarm enemies or pull them in to prevent them from slipping away. However, lizards are far from the most evil beasts we're going to encounter on this journey. That honor could belong to several contenders, but this freakish abomination is perhaps the most infamous in Hunter's journey. To those who know, you know. To those who don't, I'm going to repress the traumatic memories for now and discuss his ethics in the next episode. But aside from that killjoy, we now enter the Scavengers. The Scavengers are a race of intelligent, social, monkey-like beings that inhabit many regions of Rainworld. And yes, they just fought off that enormous bird with sheer strength and numbers. Their mechanics can warrant an entire video essay on its own, but to sum it up as briefly as I can, Scavengers interact with Hunter based on a reputation system. Help them out, and they might just help you. Piss them off, and you can imagine what an entire colony of spear-wielding psychos might have in store for you. We've been fortunate enough to come across a scavenger outpost. You can essentially think of this as a toll that requires a payment in order to safely pass. These guys have no beef with me unless I try to trespass without an offering. Now, thankfully for us, Hunter does come equipped with an offering when the campaign begins. Buried deep in his stomach lies a green pearl that you saw him spit out. Now, this pearl is arguably important for lore reasons, but for the sake of this series, I'm going to use it to gain good fortune with a scavenger colony. We may or may not find out the other uses for pearls later, but the fact of the matter is, scavengers are greedy bastards that can't help themselves when they see one. If he wanted to, Hunter could have passed through their outpost safely and continued on that path, but he's deliberately backtracking in this case to reach the next region in his quest, settled high above the farm arrays. So, we can say farewell to the scavengers for now. But I assure you we'll be seeing much more of them, especially when we don't want to. But in any case, Hunter's path continues around the unstable landscape of the farm arrays. The winding red plants here grow wildly across the landscape, while the crude graffiti sprawled across the background walls sends a message that there's much more history to this place than the overgrown flora would indicate at first. Each region has its own distinctive color scheme and set pieces to help it stand out as a unique piece of the world. While this region is identifiable through its use of the washed out teal skies and warm brown infrastructure, every corner of the color wheel is going to get its time to shine in this campaign. In addition to regional differences, the creatures we come across also come with distinguishable variations to help them adapt to the vastly different conditions they face. Except for the giant birds. They're just assholes. But I digress. There are dozens of variables present in Rainworld that work off of each other to create a truly living, breathing environment. Because of this, no two playthroughs will ever be exactly the same. The obstacles and enemies you face are mostly left up to chance. The routine that every creature has is dependent on their diet, aggression, the time of day, the current weather cycle, other animals in their pack, the list goes on. Some creatures are at our mercy to hunt, while many will inevitably try to hunt us. There are also creatures that couldn't give less of a shock about Hunter, but no matter what region we're in, the game is consistent in giving every plant and animal their place in the world's ecosystem. Of course, that extends to our little red friend himself. Hunter is what is known as a slugcat, and he is not the only one of his kind. They may be very scarce in many regions of the world, but slugcats are no slouch when it comes to exploration skills. Their small size, slick body, and high agility essentially make them a jack of all trades in respect to the world around them. Slugcats are not designed to be at the top of the food chain, however, and there will be many cases in which proper planning and swift reactions will be the only way forward against creatures that outclass Deer Hunter in the fundamental stats department. Knowledge of the world around us is imperative to success in this campaign, and it's going to take almost every resource in the book to get through unscathed. Enter the squid Kata, folks. Yes, it turns out that not every creature in this forsaken world wants to see Hunter on their plate. Some annoying little buggers, like this beauty, occupy the world and go about their routines in their own desperate attempts to survive. And although they may not know it yet, squid Katas are even here to help us. Hunter can grab on with both of his arms and use the floaty nature of the squid to leap much farther than he could otherwise. And it's with this guy's, of course, very voluntary help that Hunter is able to reach the very first shelter of this run. Shelters, as you can expect, give us a place to rest while also saving our progress. By the time we reach some of the later regions, you are going to learn to love that shelter symbol and embrace it with all of your soul. But I digress. If Hunter has enough food, he can remain inside of a shelter for a few seconds in order to hibernate. Now, upon hibernating, the screen is going to be absolutely flooded with information. As the playthrough progresses, all of this is going to make far more sense. But all I can say for now is, remain calm, squeeze your favorite teddy bear, and pretend it's all making sense. However, that's about all I have for you this time, folks. To close out this week's episode, I'd like to shift the focus away from my ramblings and place the spotlight on the game's own immersive world building. Rainworld is a very artistically and sonically stimulating game. The detailed regions, environments, creatures, and the way that these things all interact with each other make for an absolute work of art, to be sure. But the sound design is what elevates this game to the next level of ambience. The soundtrack by James Primate, among other artists who can be found via the Bandcamp links in the description of this video, is incredible stuff that I will be gushing about for the entire playthrough. But for the rest of this video, I will let you all enjoy some of the sounds of the game while Hunter traverses his way to the top of the farm arrays. Stick around and you might see a couple gags thrown in, or maybe you won't. Such is the ambiguity of Rainworld. And with all of that being said, thank you all for watching the first episode of this series, and have a good night, folks.